Some books are written about brands and some books are written about watches. And then there are books written about a single movement. That alone should tell you something about Calibre 2755, which is not a popular and not widely distributed book by Vacheron Constantin. It was meant to be consumed casually. It wasn't designed for mass readership or algorithmic relevance, but rather it exists for one reason only: to freeze a moment of horological ambition in time. Because when a manufacturer dedicates an entire book on one caliber, it is not documentation, it is a declaration. This episode is about that particular declaration. Calibre 2755 is a manufacturer-published monograph produced by Vacheron Constantin in collaboration with Assouline, devoted entirely to one of the most complex and philosophically loaded movements in the Maison that they have ever created. It is part of a quiet internal series intended to document exceptional calibers, not for marketing scale, but for institutional memory. The book is concise, it is beautifully produced and intentionally restrained. This is not a coffee table spectacle, it's closer to a technical manifesto in a book form. Calibre 2755 is not just complicated, it is strategically complicated. It combines a minute repeater, a tourbillon, a perpetual calendar, and it is finished to hallmark of Geneva standards. It all integrated into a movement that reflects Vacheron Constantin's particular philosophy of restraint, legibility, and classical architecture. This caliber was originally developed for high-level grand complications, but later it was adopted for modern expressions such as the overseas grand complication open face, proving it is not a museum piece, but a living mechanical language. This book exists because this caliber is not meant to be explained in passing. That matters because this book is not written like technical documentation. It is written like a controlled revelation. Every diagram, every photograph, and every explanation feels deliberate. And if the book is deciding how much the reader is allowed to know and when. Rather than overwhelming the reader, the book unfolds Calibre 2755 in layers. The historical lineage of grand complications at Vacheron Constantin, the intellectual logic behind combining a repeater, a tourbillon, and a calendar, the architectural layout of the movement, finishing details and craft decisions, and finally, the caliber's role in modern haute horology. This structure mirrors the movement itself. It's complex, but never chaotic. The book teaches you how to look at the caliber before asking you to admire it. Here's the key insight that the book communicates. It communicates quietly but very clearly. Calibre 2755 is not about pushing the limits for spectacle. It is about a balance. This is complication as civilization, not as a bravada. And that reflects something deeply in Vacheron Constantin, the belief that mastery should never shout. Here's where this book fits perfectly into watches and politics. Publishing a book like Calibre 2755 is an act of institutional soft power. It is meant to say we don't need attention, we document for the future. This is how old institutions assert authority, not through volume, but through confidence in continuity. This book is hard to find by design. It was distributed through boutiques, internet channels, and collectors close to the Maison. It was never meant to trend or to be trendy. That obscurity is part of its meaning because 2755 is not a product book. It's a record of intent, a message to the future watchmakers, future historians, and custodians, that this is what we considered important at this particular time in history. What stays with you after engaging with this book is not the complication count. It's the realization that a caliber can be an argument about how complexity should feel, how tradition evolved without rupture, how excellence survived without performance. Calibre 2755 is not trying to impress you, it is trying to outlast you. So Calibre 2755 is a quiet line drawn in history saying this is where we stood at this particular time in history. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think a movement deserves its own book? And which modern calibers do you believe will still matter in 50 years? Tell me in the comments or send me a message. And also tell me which movement, not brand, deserves the next chapter. Because in the end, watches don't just measure time, they record value. This is Watches and Politics, and I'll see you in the next chapter.